Radio.
Hello and welcome to the McDonald-Hendricks County Sports Show on audiosportsonline.net and XRB Radio, the voice of Hendricks County. Upcoming on this episode, we'll have plenty to talk about tonight, as not only will we have Brownsburg assistant basketball coach Drew Tower joining us, but we have plenty of action to talk about all around the county, especially with sectionals now really getting started. The McDonald-Hendricks County Sports Show is brought to you by your local Brownsburg McDonald's. You can try a 4-piece McNugget now for only $1 or a 20-piece McNugget for $5. You can have them plain with sweet and sour, barbecue, honey mustard, or ketchup. Today is Wednesday, February 12th, 2014, from the Main Street McDonald's in Brownsburg. This is the McDonald-Hendricks County Sports Show. I'm your host, JP, and I'm joined by Brownsburg assistant basketball coach Drew Tower. How are you doing today, Coach?
Hey, JP, doing well. Glad to be here.
Well, I know we've had you on before, but last time we really didn't go into a little bit too much about what your responsibilities are. One of those responsibilities is being the main coach for that junior varsity team, and let's talk a little bit about that team. It was a very, very. You guys are 6-4 on the season. How do you feel about the JV team thus far in the year?
I think the JV guys have done a very good job of trying to learn what we do and what we expect from them. I think the JV experience is a unique deal. You play 20 games, you play regular season games, and then you don't do anything in the postseason. So the continued expectation for the JV guys is to get better every single day and understand it's a process and learn what we do, what we expect from them, how they want to play as a team, and learn about the game and learn about the fundamentals of the game and just continue to get better every single day. So from that standpoint, throwing the record out there, they've done a really good job, a really nice job, so we're pleased with that.
When you look at the program as a whole, is it tough, looking at the JV games, knowing that sometimes late in some of those games, you're going to have some of your better players going to head to the locker room to dress and get ready for the varsity game?
Well, I think that's part of it. And again, I think it's a unique experience, and it takes some of these guys a little bit of time to get used to. So if we lose one of our top scorers in the fourth quarter because we need quarters out of them in the varsity game, that gives the other guys good experience with a lot of different things. One of those is closing out basketball games that they're just going to continue to keep getting better at with the more experience that they get.
So it's a good chance for them to see who wants it.
Yep, absolutely. Also,
you look at it, when it comes to a program like Brownsburg and what Coach Lynch is implementing in his first year, you have, a system in place. You want to try and get the guys pretty much all on the same page, whether it be, start teaching them as freshmen, JV, or varsity, kind of all that same system. Do you defer from that a little bit when you coach the JV team? Try and teach them a little bit of something that maybe Coach Lynch doesn't stress as much?
I wouldn't say we defer too much. We're going to have different personnel, different strengths, say, than the varsity would. But we're going to run ultimately the same program. We want the same principles taught offensively and defensively. Now, we may run a different action more often than the varsity because we have different personnel. However, the same principles, the same work ethic, how we want to teach the game, how we want our players to execute the game is going to be pretty much consistent.
So basically it's the same system, but you tweak it a little bit to match the personnel. So
absolutely.
And you talk about that system. In Lynch's system. And let's go ahead and talk about that varsity team. I mean, you look at it, 14-2 on the season, only 2 losses coming to number 1 and number 3 ranked teams in the state in Carmel and Hamilton Southeastern, which has to be, it has to make you and the team feel pretty good about where you are at this juncture of the season.
I think our guys have done an excellent job buying into what we want to do. They've represented the community well. They've represented the school well, and we've been really pleased with what we've been able to accomplish thus far in the season.
Yeah, talk about representing the community well. I have inside information that told me about a little bit of a different kind of practice last Monday with the Best Buddies. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what that meant, especially to some of those kids?
Yeah, I think some of the, Brownsburg High School has a program where they have Best Buddies, and some of the special education students partner with some of our high school students, and they do different activities together. And one deal that we really wanted to be a part of was having them at practice. And our players did an outstanding job. I think they probably learned more than they thought they would. They enjoyed the experience, and it was something that was really good for our guys and our program.
Well, it's good to see them out there and doing stuff like that in the community. That's obviously a very, very nice thing. But let's go and talk a little bit. It's been a while since we've actually talked to a Brownsburg basketball coach because, the previous week that we had Brownsburg, we talked to Coach Schneider and also looked ahead for baseball. And we haven't really talked since that Hamilton Southeastern loss. The team's rattled off 5 straight wins since then, and most pretty much by a really decisive margin. Did the team just get kind of a new fire in them after that loss?
Well, I think you always learn something new about your team every time you lose or every time you win. We're coming off the Hamilton Southeastern loss, and we're really taking a look at our defense and what we can do to help our guys to score the ball better. Again, I think we throw some new things at them. They've really got in and shot the ball a lot. They've done extra work. We've shot more in practice. And then defensively, we've tweaked a couple things, but we've really gotten down, guarded the ball hard, and finished possessions better than we could.
Well, let's go and take a look at 2 of the most recent games from this month, Coach, and we'll start with that Westfield game, which was last Friday. The varsity team beat a struggling Westfield team 59-32 on Friday. No player scored in double figures for Westfield, and he held them to only 38% shooting for the game. So you had to like the defensive intensity coming out of this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also helps when you come out and hit shots. That kind of puts a little pressure off of your defense. So that's something that we did, that we started off the game really well. Trevor Lucas had a great game for us. And
he had a great game in both those games.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at the Westfield and the Tri-West game both, saying Trevor played well offensively, I think looking at KJ, he had a great game defensively. His activity was great, whether we were in 1-3, 1-2-3 or man. His length, his athleticism, but his motor on the defensive end and his willingness to commit to that end was really outstanding for us.
When you look at a guy like KJ, he's in his junior year, starting to get a little bit of look probably from some colleges. Do you think college coaches are looking to see what kind of intensity a player can bring on the defensive end, and do you think that's something that has really spurred KJ on to really play hard at that end?
Yeah, I think so. I think he knows what college coaches are going to look for, and he knows a lot of guys can play on the offensive end, but it really sets him apart when he shows the defensive intensity and the intangibles that come on that end. And also, I think he knows his teammates rely on him on both ends as well, so it's something he's really picked up and done a really nice job for us.
One of the other great things about that Westfield game was that the team forced Westfield into 18 turnovers. Was that a byproduct of just playing stringy, aggressive defense?
Yeah, absolutely. Our guys have done a great job, starting with the point with Darian Ringo, all the way back to the back line with Kyle Thompson. Our guys have guarded hard. They've bought into our team concepts, helped defense, and finished possessions.
After that game, the team turned its attention to a pretty good Tri-West team. But your team didn't seem to have any trouble at all with winning that one 56-35 on Saturday. And the team just continues to dominate defensively. They held the Bruins to a meek 23% shooting in that game. What can you say coming out of that game about the way the team played defense in that one?
I think Tri-West has a great team. We were certainly able to look at some film, see what we wanted to take away with Tri-West. But, again, our guys' intensity right off the bat and consistently throughout the game was just outstanding. So I think, we can look at a scouting report. They've done a great job of buying into a scouting report, really paying attention to the details, and coming out and executing in the game.
When it comes, when you talk about that scouting report, is it so much of you try and say, hey, KJ, this is who you're going to be matched up with, or is it more of a team concept where it's let's try and focus a little bit more on this one. If we can force them this way, it might be better for us in the long run?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. We want to know individual tendencies, how we want to guard each player, but at the same time, okay, how do they want to play fast? Do they want to shoot a lot of threes? Are they going to take the ball inside? What is going to be their overall play? And then how can we affect that on the defensive end and also on the offensive end so we don't shoot it too quick or we take too slow possessions?
Well, up next for the squad, you're hosting Harrison. That's this Friday at 7:30. What do you kind of expect from them? Have you seen anything on film that really stands out for them?
I think Harrison is a great team. It's Indiana high school basketball. We're traveling on the road, so it's always going to be tough. Offensively, they've got some weapons. They have a couple of players that can really fill it up. Certainly can shoot the basketball well and rebound the basketball well. So something we've got to be ready for the test every single night.
Yeah, the Raiders are 4-11 on the year, but they do have 2 very capable scorers and junior Chad Renneker and senior Talon Sundergrath. How do your team's tough getting defense kind of plan to try and slow down those two scores, or have you guys not seen film on that yet?
I think we've got to find them early. In transition, if they want to push, we have to always know where they're at on the floor. We've got to make up for each other. If they're in transition, we can't have one single guy. Every guy has to have a single guy. So stop the basketball, again, help defense, and then finish on the boards.
So is communication going to be a really big factor in that transition game with Harrison?
Oh, absolutely.
Talking about who's going to get pick up who, if the defense is kind of in a little bit of a quick break back, trying to stop that transition.
Yeah, I think night in and night out, whoever you're playing, they're going to try and make it uncomfortable for the defense. So the better that we can get back on defense and pick up a guy and pick up an action, the better off we'll be.
One of the things that Raiders do a really good job of is rebounding the basketball. They grab close to 24 rebounds per game. Is there more on an emphasis in this game for guys like Kyle Thompson to grab some more boards, or you kind of rely on your guards to help out on the defensive glass?
I think that's a team effort for us. If you look at our stats, our guards probably average more rebounds than our big guys. But, Darian Ringo and Trevor and KJ all rebound the basketball so well. Kyle and Jordash and Dalton usually end up blocking a guy out and letting a guard come and get it. And whether we're in zone or man, our team has collectively just rebounded the ball really well. So, again, it's got to be a focus and emphasis for us every single possession.
Yeah, and sometimes it works out to your benefit because you can get out and run. If you have a guard rebound the basketball, they don't have to necessarily, if it's not a big man rebound the basketball, they don't have to pass it off. They can just go.
Yep, certainly is.
So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this team. I mean, it's getting close to that sectional time. How do you keep the team from getting kind of complacent when the season is kind of starting to wind down and you're gearing up for that postseason?
I think it's a constant challenge for our coaching staff and for our guys both just to continue to get better every single day. So, we're going to look at a lot of skill development and continue to work on our personal game and our collective game both. And then, we have to be sharp. We have to always be challenging ourselves so we don't reach that complacency. I think the best teams in March are always getting better as a team in January and February. So that's what we always want to challenge our guys to do day in and day out.
Well, when you look at the schedule, 12-34 is the combined record of the next three opponents on that schedule. The only team with a winning record coming up is going to be Perry Meridian. What does this team have to do to continue to win the games that they should win based on the level of the opponent they're facing?
I think if we take it one day at a time, each day in practice when we have games, again, it's Indiana high school basketball, so we really don't want to pay attention to anyone's record. We're traveling on the road or we're playing at home. We know we've got a bullseye on our back, and we're going to get everybody's best shot, so we've got to be ready every single night. And then leading up into sectional and tournament play, we have to be challenged every single day, so we're ready for it when it comes.
Has anything, you talked about that, having the bullseye on your back. This team, maybe wasn't so much expected to be as good as they are at this juncture of the season. Weren't necessarily getting a lot of preseason hype, but now that you guys are up there in the rankings, do you kind of feel like, the teams had to adjust from being the hunter to being the hunted?
Well, I think in our sectional and our tournament, we've got outstanding competition. I mean, I think we probably have 3 in the top 20. So I think we've seen some wins from teams in our sectional, pretty impressive wins. They've played against good competition year in and year out. We've performed very well this season. I think it's a byproduct of the work that our guys have put in. So when we get into the game, it's going to be who can execute better, who can do the little things better, and that's something we've been trying to prepare our guys for season long.
All right, well, thank you for coming on, Coach. It's been fun as always. We wish you luck going forward with the remainder of the season, and hopefully we'll have you back on again at some point in the near future. We'll take a quick step away, and then when we come back, we'll take a look around the county at some of the results from some different teams during the winter schedule. You're listening to the McDonald-Hendricks County Sports Show on AudioSportsOnline.net. Welcome back. This is the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on AudioSportsOnline.net, and it is brought to you by your local Brownsburg McDonald's. You can try a 4-piece McNugget now for only $1 and a 20-piece McNugget for only $5. You can have them plain with sweet and sour, barbecue, honey mustard, or ketchup. Well, let's go ahead. It's just me today. Christopher Worley could not make it in today. Had a different scheduling conflict, so it's just going to be me, but we'll get right to it. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the results from around Hendricks County's winter sports schedule, and we'll start with Brownsburg. Like we talked about with Coach Drew Tower, the boys basketball team continues to roll. They went 2-0 on the week and brought that record to a very impressive 14-2, which is good for number 4 ranking in the state. And we also talked about a couple of weeks ago how the last team, this Brownsburg team, the last time they won the Hendricks County tournament, actually won the state title. So the future looks very bright for Coach Lynch. He's only in his first year, so you know this program is only going to continue to get better. So obviously that's something that's looking very, very good for that boys basketball team. And the varsity girls basketball team, they continue to roll. They won 2 straight right before the Indiana High School Athletic Association 4A tourney. They hosted Lebanon last Wednesday and won 65-43. Then they traveled to Brebeuf on Friday, and they won that one as well by a final score of 70-54. The team is currently facing off against rival Avon in the 2013-2014 Indiana High School Athletic Association Class 4A girls basketball state tournament in that sectional. Avon is only 1-16 on the year. Really, their main go-to threat is going to be Lexi Short, and they've not really gotten off to a very good start this year, has the Avon girls team. But the winner of that game between Brownsburg and Avon will face the winner of Plainfield and Terre Haute South Vigo on Friday to advance in the sectional. For the wrestling team, the following wrestlers earned a spot to compete at the Evansville Semi-State this Saturday. At the 106 weight class was Nick Weaver. At the 120, it was Connor Allen. At 152 was C.J. Damler. And at 182, it's Stone Neese. And at the heavyweight, it's Zach Rumschlag. So congratulations to all those wrestlers that are moving on to the semi-state, which is a very, very good thing for Coach Schneider over there and the wrestling team. The Bulldog girls swimming and diving team really put on a show Saturday at the Indiana High School Athletic Association sectionals at the Bulldog Aquatic Center. The Bulldogs broke 2 school records and advanced 6 athletes onto regional and state competition as they won their first sectional championship since 1990 by using really good depth outdistant runner-up Pike 460 to 371. The Dogs crowned 5 individual sectional champions, with senior Grace Fullwider having a hand in 3 of them, as well as both school records set on the day. Fullwider teamed with senior Tia Scroggin and junior Kiera Watson and sophomore Madison Kier to win the 200 medley relay in a school record time of 1:51 and .63 seconds. And they also broke a school record she also broke a school record, I should say, with her win in the 100 breaststroke at a time of 1:05 and 97 seconds. Fullwider also had a 3rd sectional title in the 200 individually medley, and Fullwider will participate in all 3 events at the Indiana High School Athletics State Finals. So, and as will Watson and freshman A.J. Mall. So congratulations to the swimming and diving team. Let's go and take a look now at Plainfield. In boys basketball, the Plainfield Quakers split this week. They went 1-1 on the week, and they also lost at Greenwood 49-45 on Friday. Senior Bobby Jensen has continued to roll a little bit for the Quakers over there at Plainfield. They've not necessarily had the best of years under Coach Weaver over there at Plainfield, but you're a senior. You're trying to get some momentum for your team going into that sectional play, and senior Bobby Jensen's really stepped up lately for the Quakers over there. He scored 17 points to lead for Plainfield, who also got 12 points from freshman Nathan Mills. Jensen also recorded a double-double with 11 rebounds, 6 of them coming on the offensive glass. So, and we've talked about Nathan Mills pretty much all year long for Plainfield. So the future is looking bright when you can combine talent like freshman Nathan Mills and Max Starkowski over there at Plainfield. And the Quakers also rebounded after that to defeat Northview 60-52. Northview is currently sitting at 8-8 on the year. Much like the previous game, Jensen scored 18 points while Mills added a 12-point effort. But the Quakers have a very daunting task ahead of them as they will face 3-14 Cascade on Thursday, but then they must prepare for a very good Brownsburg boys basketball team next Tuesday. Both of those games are on the road for the Quakers. The girls' team for Plainfield is having a really great season. I don't know if you've been able to catch any of what they've been able to do, but they finished the regular season at 10-2, and they're now set to face Terre Haute South Vigo in the sectionals of the Indiana High School Athletic Association for a tournament, and that's going on tonight. And like we talked about, the winner of that game will go on to face the winner of Brownsburg, Avon. So that tournament's well underway. We'll hopefully have results for you for that tournament coming up at next week's show. Plainfield Wrestling finished their season not necessarily in the best of fashion. They finished 8th at the sectionals from Mooresville, so not exactly the record I'm sure they wanted to finish the season with, but now that the season's over, you start looking ahead to next year, start looking ahead to conditioning, and hopefully, the season doesn't take too long to roll back around and you can try and get right back at it. Men's and women's swimming and diving are gearing up for the sectionals as well. They will be taking place on February 20th at Avon High School. And lastly, let's go and take a look at Avon High School. The boys basketball team has struggled of late, losing 4 of their last 5 losses to Hamilton Southeastern, Bloomington North, Zionsville, and Ben Davis. But let's look at the games from this month. Against Lafayette Jeff, the Orioles came away with the 56-50 victory. So it was a very good outing for them in that one. But, right after that, they had to face a very, very tough Ben Davis team on the road. And Ben Davis basketball squad was able to hold off the Avon Orioles by a scoring margin of 55-50. And with that victory, Ben Davis improved to 9-7 on their year. After that, the Orioles will head to confront the Westfield Shamrocks in a Hoosier Crossroads Challenge on Thursday. Avon will attempt to improve to 7-11 on the season. They, maybe not have the best of seasons that they want over there under Coach Young, but at the same time, 7-11 is a very good record. I'm sure they'll try and get back closer to 500. They have made some changes of late. We've talked about them on the show before. Freshman Andrew Short starting to get a little bit more game time there at the point for them, and they feel like that'll help them. So hopefully we can see him develop a little bit more, and that'll help them in the long run. But the Shamrocks will come into that challenge 2-14 on the year. So it'll be a very good opportunity for Avon to try and pick up a win against the Shamrocks. The Orioles girls basketball team, as we talked about, they have not necessarily had the best of years. They lost to Hamilton Southeastern by a score of 53-36 on February 6th, and they have a very, very tough challenge in front of them tonight as they are facing Brownsburg tonight during the sectionals. So hopefully they'll be able to put up a very, very nice challenge. But the Brownsburg girls team, like we talked about, is having a very, very solid year. And swimming and diving for the Avon teams, they're preparing for the swimming sectionals coming up on February 20th as well. But really, the big news for Avon this week is the wrestling team taking home the sectional team championship. So that was a very, very nice showing from Avon. They had plenty of individual winners, including Brian Rossbach at 113, Nicotine at 132, Marcus Miranda at 138, Brendan Helm at 160, Evan Elmore at 182, and Shane Dillahay at 195, and also Gunnar Larson at 220, and lastly Guy Henson at 285. So very, very impressive outings from the Avon wrestlers. We talked to Coach Schneider last week about how tough of a sectional it was going to be when you had a team like Avon hosting it and teams like Ben Davis competing in that sectional. And as Coach Schneider said last week, or not last week, excuse me, we didn't have a show last week, but the week before last week, he was really, really hoping for a good showing, and he got it from some of his individual wrestlers. So obviously we wish all of the wrestlers from Brownsburg and Avon the best going forward as they head to the semi-state. And also on a side note, a couple side notes for Avon. Avon's Austin Gossman signed his letter of intent to study and play baseball at Vincennes University, and Avon's Logan Besson signed her letter of intent to study and play volleyball at IU East. So congratulations to those two. We wish them the best of luck in their future endeavors. We'll take a quick time out, and we'll come back here momentarily. Welcome back to the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on XRB Radio and also AudioSportsOnline.net. And I am joined by Carol Sinclair. And yes, there's a little bit of relation there. But the reason I'm being joined by Carol Sinclair is we talked with Coach Drew Tower about you and the Best Buddies had a very, very unique opportunity when it came to last Monday's practice for the Brownsburg Bulldog team. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I'm one of the advisors for Best Buddies with two other teachers, Rachel O'Neill and Alicia Bingham. And we work with the group, and we do an event every month. And last year we had an event where we practiced with the basketball team, and it was really a lot of fun for our kids because sometimes they don't get to play a lot of sports or anything like that, and getting to play with the basketball team was kind of, they're like famous. So they got to play with them. They got
posters and everything.
They did. Coach Lynch gave all the kids a poster, and they were really excited about that. And I thought that was a really nice touch to a really nice time. We were there for about half an hour. They ran drills and also showed the kids how to make layups. And we do have a few students who are bound to a wheelchair. And one of the students, he couldn't exactly get a ball into one of the goals, so they brought out shorter goals, and they even leaned it down so he could slam dunk a ball into it, and that was just really awesome, just them working with him. And we have also another student who was really trying to get it, and then they just kept moving him until he found like his sweet spot, and then he shot. And it was a really great moment for myself and the other teachers, just watching him be able to do that, because he made every shot after that once he found that spot, and they helped him do it. So it was a really great afternoon, and the basketball players were great, and the coaches, they were more hands off. Like, the players were running the show. Obviously the coaches had talked to them, but it was really neat to see the players run the show and help the kids. It was nice.
You look at it, you're obviously a very big part of the Brownsburg community, and we talked about the team. How great is it seeing a team that's having so much success on the court, doing so much for the community off the court?
I think it's awesome. You're also getting to see a different side of them. You see them play basketball, and they're serious, and they're in the game, their head's in the game, and they're working so hard. And then to watch them with my students and some of the other students in Best Buddies, and they're more playful. They're, they are a part of the community. They are kids. They're students, at the school. And it was just great. And you can tell that they really have some great students working on that team.
And, what does it say to a guy like Coach Lynch? This wasn't his thing last year. It was Ron Norad's thing that, got started with you guys with Best Buddies. So what do you think about Lynch continuing to carry that torch and what that means to your particular program with Best Buddies?
I think that's awesome, and I think it's setting a standard for future years to continue this on, and just even after I'm gone or after Lynch is gone, that the kids are still working together and showing, that some of our buddies, different parts of the school and going out, because usually they just stay in their one little area or they do a few things outside of school, but getting them to play with the basketball team, I think that's really awesome. And Coach Lynch, when I approached him about it this year, was very open to it, thought it was a great idea, was ready to set it up.
You also talked about with that Best Buddies, event, it can be kind of hard. You have some guys, some of those kids that are in shells. Did it seem like the players did a good job trying to get some of those kids out of their shells, get them to open up a little bit?
Yeah, our students, like, when they got on that basketball court, they wanted to be on the court. They wanted to do something, and they were ready to go. And the basketball players got out there. They paired up with them. They made little teams, played some basketball. Some of the students were guarding the other students while they tried to shoot. It was great.
Okay, well, obviously that's a great event, and we're glad we could have you on. But we'll take one more time out, and then we'll come back and wrap it up. You're listening to the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on Audio Sports Online. Welcome back to the McDonald-Hendricks County Sports Show on AudioSportsOnline.net and XRB Radio, the voice of Hendricks County. As we talked about, today's show is brought to you by your local Brownsburg McDonald's. You can try a 4-piece McNugget now for $1 or a 20-piece McNugget for $5. You can have them plain with sweet and sour, barbecue sauce, honey mustard, or even just good old ketchup. But it is a little bit of a slow news week. As we talked about, it's that time of the year for sectionals. A lot of teams that aren't necessarily in action, so that's part of the reason why we just don't have that many results. Wrestling is, as we talked about, Brownsburg and Avon both had really, really good showings. Most of the swimming and diving teams for almost all the schools are just preparing for sectionals, and the basketball teams are really just finishing up. The girls sectional started tonight, so obviously as it gets to that point in time, as a former student athlete myself in the Indiana High School Athletic Association, it's a very, very special time of the year, because at this point even you could have had a really bad season. Maybe not necessarily the best of season, not necessarily the season you want, but it's a good opportunity now during the sectional time. You may have a lower seed, but you'll have that ability to try and go out there and try and do something against maybe some tougher competition, and maybe be that underdog team that can shock the rest of the state when it comes to that. So even if you're not any of these teams that may be the higher seed, obviously we wish them the best of luck too. It's just that great time of the year as we get set to get ready for the state championships for the winter season as we continue to wind down the season. But that'll just about do it for the show. It's been fun. We only hope to keep getting better as we go along. The McDonald-Hendricks County Sports Show is written by me, J.P. Sinclair, and produced and distributed by AudioSportsOnline.net. Some of the music provided tonight is from Mevio's Music Alley. You can check them out at music.mevio.com. Special thanks today for assistant basketball coach Drew Tower for joining us on the show today. Our next show will be at the Avon 267 location over there by Kroger. Would love to see you out there for that show. You can send us any feedback, or if you have questions or comments you'd like to hear talked about on the show, you can send those to jp.sinclair1988@gmail.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at SinclairJP. That's SINCLAIRJP. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, I'm JP Sinclair for Chris Worley, who couldn't be here today. We hope you continue to support high school athletics as much as we do.